Good evening, and welcome to I'm Listening. Stay connected. I'm Listening is a 24/7, 365 initiative striving to do our part in ending the stigma of talking about mental health. If you want to join the conversation, you can at hashtag I'm Listening. Tonight's show, we'll be talking with Dr. Jen Wider, our health expert, about new advice from the World Health Organization, as well as ways we can boost our immune system. And then we'll be joined by Rebecca Sheeta, licensed family therapist, about ways to cope when you're trapped at home with your loved ones and your partner. We spoke earlier about mental health with Halsey as part of the I'm Listening campaign. Let's watch that video now.
So one of the things for me, more so than even being able to ask for help, was recognizing the problems to begin with and noticing the warning signs, noticing patterns, and being in touch with myself enough to know when something was wrong. You know, when my body's check engine light went on.
That message is vitally important.
Ignoring and the problem, being able to say, this time I'm going to take it to the shop in time before the car breaks down.
All right. And that message is what this show is about tonight. We want everyone to remember that although we're talking a lot about our physical health and wellness, we want to always focus on mental health as well. And we talk a lot about boundaries. And I'm wanting to remind people that your mental health is impacted by the conversations you're having. So I'm working with people on setting the needed boundaries. If you are feeling overwhelmed and stressed, stop conversations, and also pay attention to whether or not you're possibly ruminating. It's very easy right now to get lost in talking about symptoms and new stats and facts that are coming out. So if you're not feeling calm and soothed, take a break away from the conversations with those around you at home. That's one of the most important things we can do right now. We're talking a lot about physical distancing, but I really want to fold in the term mental distancing. And that is about, again, taking a break and stepping away from all of the different conversations and things that are happening on social media. Now, I want to really zero in on this concept of maintaining normality. We want to make sure that we're not slipping into depression. And depression is what's going to happen if we're not setting our home and our routines in a very structured way. So the way that we can combat that is to have a routine. Get up in the morning still. I want you to still get showered and dressed. There's this concept of time creep, and that means that hours can go by and we haven't really taken care of ourselves or been productive. So again, get up and get dressed. I also want you to clean your place. The environment that we're living in right now is going to deeply impact our anxiety and our mental health. So now more than ever, I want you to keep things clean. I want you to make your bed because, again, we're trying to keep our moods lifted and we want to make our environment match the way we want to feel. Also, create some to-do lists. We still want to make sure that we're feeling as though our days are full of meaning and value. Because again, depression creeps in when we're not taking care of ourselves and when we really feel thrown off from all the things that we traditionally do in our day that really give us purpose and impact our mood. But again, we want to be thoughtful about boundaries. So you don't have to respond to everything coming in on your phone. Just because you're getting a text message, an email, or a phone call doesn't mean you have to answer it. Because again, we're checking in with how we feel. And as Halsey said, if we're not checking in on our bodies, we're not focusing on our mental health. So if you're not feeling calm and grounded, then that is not the time to check the news or maybe to have that phone call with your friend that's anxious. Because again, our moods, it's infectious. So we want to really be paying attention to the mental health of those around us because again, that's going to impact our mental health and vice versa. Because right now it's imperative that we're thinking about self-care, but also relational and community care. Because with social distancing and mental health distancing, we're really zeroing in on the way we're impacting each other. And finally, have some cutoff times. You don't want your day to just be nothing but productivity. I want you to find moments of fun and joy. Again, we're taking everything very seriously, but we're reminding ourselves that distraction is a vital part of self-care. We're now going to talk with Dr. Jen Wider, a health expert, about ways that we can really boost our immune system and pay attention to the different factors in our lives. Welcome to the show, Dr. Wider. How are you?
Thanks, Dr. Chris. It's great to be back with you. How are you?
I'm doing really well. So, I'm watching people and they're talking about what they're eating and drinking and smoking. And I wanted to just have a quick conversation with you about what people should be paying attention to.
I think one of the really important things for us to remember is that we need to pay close attention to not only our mental well-being, but our sexual well-being and our physical well-being. Because if you look at total body health, and I've said this in times of crisis and not in times of crisis, our total body health is very vital. So what can we do to boost our immune system? We want to stay healthy, both in our mind and in our body, right? So one thing that I think people overlook is sleep. Sleep is incredibly important. If we are sleep deprived, we can be less immune ready to face any kind of virus or germ that may enter our system, right? So whether it's a common cold, whether it's strep throat, whether it's something like coronavirus, sleep deprivation is something we cannot ignore. Now, it's very easy for me to sit here and say you need to get a good night's sleep because, of course, with stress and anxiety, sometimes it's not so easy to get a good night's sleep. So stress management is another part of this. Part of taking care of our immune system and boosting our immune system is paying attention to our stress relief. And it is vital, like you said, to take time during the day to find ways to alleviate your stress. What you said is so important. The day should not be filled with just productivity. Some of us are living with extended family right now. We may be, some of us have our kids home for an extended period of time and we're not used to having them. Make a routine. Get the routine together as long as they're productive in school. Take times out for gym, take times out for family time, for movie time, for games. Very, very important to find a stress release. And for some people, it means doing yoga at home, doing Pilates at home, telephoning people that make you feel good, or Instagramming, or, like texting friends, posting pictures that make you feel good, looking at pictures of vacations with your family, finding time to really relax is vital for your immune system. So sleep, we make sure we have stress relief. But when we look at lifestyle habits, Chris, so important that if you are a smoker, this is a really good time to try to kick the habit, right? We're talking about maintaining good respiratory health. Being a smoker is not great during this time, nor is it a good any other time of the year or when we're facing an issue like a coronavirus. But cessation from smoking is vital. If you can use this time to try to quit, really, really important. In addition to exercising and making sure you balance, getting a good balance of foods, right? So you talked about this last night. We want to fill our plates with fruits and vegetables, foods that are really good for us. Eating processed foods right now may feel good. People, that I know that are very stressed, that eat ice cream and eat processed foods and binge on pizza and like that, it may feel good in the minute, but it's not doing your body any good. So try to fill your body with foods that are really good for you, and try to take care of yourself the best you can, from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes and in between. And that comes with your mental health as well.
I love that. And I also wanted to ask you about something that I saw. The World Health Organization is now saying that taking ibuprofen might not be the best for COVID-19 symptoms. Weigh in on that.
Okay, so this is a really good point, right? We're seeing a lot of news come through from a lot of different media outlets, and it's hard to know exactly what to believe and what not to believe. The World Health Organization weighed in on this, so I think we have to take it pretty seriously. This thought initiated with a French doctor that saw that ibuprofen, in addition to other types of nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which is Motrin, ibuprofen, COX inhibitors for people that may have arthritis, these types of medications in this class tended to make patients worse, their symptomatology worse, and this was coming out of anecdotal evidence in France. Now the World Health Organization has come down and said that if you look at viral activity with non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen, it's not uncommon to see that. So for fever reduction, and again, Chris, this is for COVID-19 patients, not for everybody. And I've heard this, I've gotten questions like this all day long today. You can take Advil safely if you don't have corona disease. Okay. But if you have the coronavirus, it is wise to do fever reduction with acetaminophen products like Tylenol. And most doctors will recommend that now, Chris. We'll hear that across the United States. There's enough anecdotal evidence to point in that direction.
Beautiful. And we also have two tweets that came in that I'd love to have you weigh in on as well. The first tweet, and again, if you want to join the conversation, you can tweet at #I'mListening. The first tweet was, is it possible that pharmacies could be shut down? My health heavily depends on my medication, and with everything closing, all I can think about is not being able to get my meds.
This listener is definitely not alone. Many of us rely on our medications from, all sorts of meds, from different ailments that people have, mental health, maintenance. This is definitely a worry. It's not the first time that I heard it. After we did receive this question, Chris, I spoke to a pharmacist who said this is highly unlikely, that the situation would get so dire that the pharmacies would close. More likely, if we see restriction in the pharmaceutical industry, we'll see people going in by appointment or pick up curbside, to lessen the traffic in the pharmacies. But as of now, there is no data nor scientific research coming in from any country dealing with it that the pharmaceutical industry plus local pharmacies would be impacted like this in any way. Not to worry.
Okay, beautiful. And we have one final tweet for you, Dr. Weider. Is it true that a lot of test centers will not test for coronavirus if you don't seem sick enough? This freaks me out because I recently got a cough and maybe want to get tested, but I'm afraid of getting rejected, which would only make my anxiety worse.
So, Chris, this is a fluid situation. You know, in the last week or so leading up to this particular week where we saw a lot of cities and towns and places shut down and really work on mitigation strategies and social distancing, the diagnostic ability in this country was lessened. And they were reserving tests for people that fit a very strict criteria. And I know, firsthand at different hospitals, even healthcare workers had to jump through hoops and loops in order to get tested. Now the situation is evolving, right? So every day the news is a little bit different. People from the FDA are constantly tweeting out how many tests are available by lab, by private lab in this country, and it is going up exponentially as we speak. And so the situation will eventually be that most people showing symptoms, regardless of what the criteria that was stringently set 2 weeks ago, will not follow, and that diagnostics will be widespread available. And we did see that in countries like South Korea, where they were testing everybody and were able to trace the disease in an effective way. So most people that show symptoms, here's the protocol, Chris. So let's say you're at home, you're not in the high vulnerability category, you're not immunosuppressed, you're not elderly, but you are somebody who thinks that you're showing symptoms. And again, the symptoms, and we ran through these the other night, but let's do it again, are usually a cough, a low grade to higher grade fever, not nasal congestion usually, and a sore throat. And many people psychosomatically are experiencing this right now. Don't negate that. There are a lot of people across this country, especially in a time when seasonal allergies are coming up, that people are feeling scratchy throats and getting very nervous. So pay attention to the symptoms, speak to your doctor. If you're running a fever, if you have a cough, if you've been exposed to somebody that may be COVID positive, speak to your doctor, and then the doctor will give the guidelines. Usually that will be go into a local testing center. Many towns right now, the health departments have set up a drive-by testing, in addition to hospitals across the country setting up drive-by outside their emergency departments so the people in the emergency room are not exposed. You can drive up, you can get swabbed, and you wait home for the results. And then the majority of people, Chris, will wait out this illness at home because the vast, vast majority of people will suffer from mild to moderate illness, and they will recover at home without any support therapy. And remember, the reason we're flattening the curve is to maintain our health system so that it works productively, so that the people that are in the category of severe disease are treated without rationing the supplies that we have across the country in the hospitals. And that's working right now. There are polls that are showing this is effective. And if you look at the news, and there is good news in silver linings among this time period, where many of the hospitals are closing down in China because there aren't enough patients to fill them. Their corona hospitals have been shut down, and the number of patients have gone down, and they've lowered and lowered in many of these other areas like South Korea and China. And we're hoping to see that in the United States in the upcoming weeks if these mitigation attempts can work.
Okay, beautiful. Dr. Jen Weider, as always, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Have
Thanks
a great
so much.
night. You're watching, I'm listening, stay connected. We're doing our part to end the stigma of talking about mental health. If you want to join the conversation, you can do so by tweeting at hashtag I'm listening. Now, we want to also acknowledge that as we're socially distancing and self-isolating, a lot of people are at home with their partners and their kids, and they're getting a lot of stress and conflict. Why? Well, because when you can't socially distance, it's hard to emotionally distance as well. So we've got licensed family therapist Rebecca Sheeta, who will be joining us. And we're going to talk about all the different tools and tips because, again, being trapped at home, now is not the time when you want to start to unpack those really triggering, difficult conversations. I talk to my clients all the time about trying to shelve things. Why? Because when we can't physically get away, it's really hard sometimes to soothe ourselves. And, for those that are living in a home or an apartment that has extra bedrooms, take advantage of those. Again, focus on the self-care. Try to check in with your bodies. Do we have Rebecca with us? All right. Rebecca Ashita, licensed therapist. Rebecca, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us. So we're talking tonight about what to do when you're at home with a partner and you're starting to feel that stress and that friction. So what do you recommend to those couples?
Well, oftentimes it's a good idea to go to a separate room. Hopefully you have one or the bathroom. Take some space, do some meditations. There are some great apps out there for meditation, and really taking a break sometimes from each other is a good idea.
I like the idea of a break, right? Even you might love them deeply, you might share a bed, but check in on how many hours you're spending together because that can really cause some friction. Now, what about the idea of topics might come up that are a little heated, high conflict? How should couples manage that?
I really think it's the time to shelve those things. I think at times like this, honestly, the best and the worst is revealed in us. And I think that these are the times that we can reflect on what's really important to us. And we're really hunkering down with people in our lives. So right now, maybe shelve the things that are really kind of hot topics and really just try to care for one another and get through this time.
Yeah, because again, it's not about ignoring or sweeping it under the rug. It's just realizing all healthy couples, whether they're stuck at home or on vacation, we have to have the capacity of saying, hey, this is getting heated. Now's not a good time. Write it down, log it in your brain, put it in your phone. We'll come back to it. What about affection and sexuality? I think that can, for some couples, maybe be a good resource. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. I don't know what will come out of this coronavirus time. There are people having a lot of sex and sort of, there's less to do, and we don't have as great as excuses as maybe we would have when we're all busy and in our routine. I think this is a really nice time to reconnect, be affectionate, and have some fun sex.
I love that. We have some tweets that I was hoping you'd answer with me. Our first tweet is, spending too much time together is bad for anyone. So what tips do you have for families who are now spending more time together than before? My family's already starting to feel a little tense. So what would you say for the family component where you have the little ones now? We're used to having them gone, most of the afternoon. Now they're home running around. What do you recommend for that?
Well, that's really hard. I have a couple teenagers. So with my teens, it's a little different because they, they're not on me as much. But when you have younger children, it's really difficult because you may still try to be working from home. So it's really hard to do that. You have to set up a routine where they're like out of the room or whatever. But things that I'm doing with my kids, I know that's been fun. Like we've been doing a lot of dancing. Like these fun dance videos or TikToks. We will do projects around the house, and great time for spring cleaning.
Have the little ones clean. I love it. Give them a sponge and a broom.
Exactly. Well, I think if you're talking about the little ones, it might be different. But like art and crafts for projects, I just went to Michael's before I locked down and got canvases and things. So things like that can be really fun to do with kids.
Yeah, and I was talking about this. I think I was talking about this last night. There's a lot of zoos and museums that are giving now virtual tours, and I think a couple film distributors are now releasing some child and family-friendly films ahead of time that you can now stream.
That's great. That's a great idea. And like for my kid too, who's 17, he's going to be doing virtual tours of colleges, on the computer, because right now you can't go visit colleges either, or do any of that. So it's a nice time to be able to do that. Maybe also, maybe not for kids, but learning other languages or exploring different things online, different countries, lots of different things you can do, but it is a difficult time. Board games, those are fun.
Yeah, video games. Thank God for technology. I don't know what we would have done without it, right? We have another tweet. This one says, my kids are having a hard time understanding the severity of what's happening with this pandemic. They think I'm being unfair because I won't take them to do fun things and have limited their outside activities. How can I communicate with them better to understand?
It's really hard. I think sometimes too, explaining to your kids about how, and it might be a little scary, but like how the virus is sort of, it's silent. You know, many people can walk around undetected. And so it's the idea is to, even though you may be well and you're doing okay, if we're in contact with people, that's how it spreads. And we want to make sure it doesn't spread to other people. So this is a way of keeping us safe and in kind of a little bubble. It's difficult. I think it's really hard for kids to understand. There's a great video that went viral with those matches. I don't know if you've seen it, Chris, where like all the matches light up and like one of the matches actually steps out of line. And it kind of explains how social distancing right now is so important to stop the spread of the virus. So things like that can be helpful to show the kids as well.
Yeah, I saw a teacher that was, before we went into self-isolation and social distancing, she was putting stamps on all the children's hands and saying, you know, at the end of the day, you win a prize if it disappears because you're hand washing. And that was the way they were reinforcing the importance of hand washing. Because, you know, the little kids like to put their hands on everything.
Right. Also, there was a science teacher or a teacher who had a plate and it had all these like little seeds on it. And it showed the value of washing your hands, and they did it with soap, and all of it went away like this spread. So some of those visual things are helpful for kids, for them to understand better.
Beautiful. Rebecca Sheeta, licensed therapist, thank you so much. Have an awesome night.
Thank you.
Again, you're watching I'm Listening. Stay connected. I'm Listening is a 24/7, 365 initiative, and we're doing our part to end the stigma of talking about mental health. Now, listen, guys, right now it's imperative now more than ever before that we are checking in with ourselves and each other and talking about what we're struggling with. You don't have to struggle alone, and that's why we're here. If you want to join the conversation, you can do so by tweeting us your comments, your thoughts, your questions at hashtag I'm Listening. We're here for you, and we want to know that we are listening. We have another tweet. This tweet says, my friends think I'm overreacting about everything because I won't hang out with them. It hurts to be made fun for cautious. I want to be able to talk to them, but I feel like I'm being judged. Should I continue justifying my actions or find a different way to connect socially? Listen, we must socially distance. I'm watching the news, and there's far too many stories coming out of people that are still engaging in high numbers of engagement with the people around them. We have to separate from each other. Look, just because you might be someone who doesn't have a compromised immune system, just because you're someone who might be of a younger age, that doesn't mean that A, you can't get infected, but more importantly, the social distancing is so that we can protect other people from us. We were talking on last night's show about the fact that 86% of people that are positive for COVID-19 have no idea that they're infected. So please don't let the pressure or the mocking of your friends change the way that you're socializing or the boundaries you're holding, and hopefully you can rub off on them. We have a caller. We have Barbara on the line from Palm Springs. Barbara, welcome to I'm Listening. Stay connected. How are you?
I'm good, Dr. Chris. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. What's your question?
Well, I'm a retired person and I live alone. And typically I rely on my social interactions throughout the day. You know, I play bridge, I play golf, and, you know, I go out to lunch and go to dinner. Now that we're in basically self-quarantine, how do I replace the missing social interactions and, you know, things that keep me satisfied in my life?
I love your question because I want people to know that social isolation doesn't mean social isolation. We want to physically and proximity wise keep distance from people, but emotionally and psychologically, we want to stay as close as ever. And so I like what your question's implying. Now, thankfully for technology, I'm telling all my clients, because I'm still doing my clinical sessions via phone and FaceTime, that they should be doing the same with their loved ones and friends. Look, Netflix itself has released a way that we can hang out where we can watch a film and communicate with those we love about the film, emailing, FaceTiming, calling. So I tell people, check in every couple hours with someone if you're really isolating. we're all doing that. And we're all starting to have to really encounter this sense of loneliness where we didn't before. We were going to work. We might've been going to the gym. We were going shopping. So, the isolative piece is something that we're all struggling with. And so most likely your friends and your family members are feeling that as well. So reach out to them a couple times a day, more so than before.
Yes.
What other ways are you entertaining yourself now that you're at home? Because we're also trying to kind of give those tips as well. What have you been doing?
Well, I always try to be learning something new in my life, and I'm trying to learn about investments. And so I've been reading a lot about investing strategies and, basically what to do with my portfolio once we hopefully recover from this. So I've been doing that and also playing bridge online. And then, as you said, calling my friends, calling my family quite a bit and kind of commiserating about our boredom.
Yeah, maybe I'll learn how to play bridge and we can play together because that's something I've never played before.
Uh-huh.
Barbara, thank you so much for your call and your question. Take care of yourself, okay?
Thank you, Dr. Chris.
All right, be well.
Bye-bye.
And I love that. I mean, again, internet, I don't know what we would have done prior. I'm watching people offer so many free services and resources. There are dance instructors that are giving free dance lessons. There are chefs that are giving free cooking lessons. There are fitness trainers that are helping you learn how to work out while at home. And again, we can be playing games with others in our lives. I was even watching someone who's going to be learning how to knit. So there's all sorts of things you can learn and tap into. So we have another tweet. This tweet says, since I've been spending so much time at home, I feel like my days are starting to blend together and it leaves me feeling a bit lost. Any advice on how to deal with this weird feeling? Yeah, I think that's what a lot of us are going to be encountering, where before we had these benchmarks and touchstones that kind of really compartmentalized our day. We had a morning, an afternoon, and an evening. And now for some people, it's just one endless day. And so as we talked about earlier in the show, it's imperative that you're still trying to act out the normalcy of your structure and routine while at home. Wake up at the time you wake up. Get showered and dressed. Clean your place. Make yourself some breakfast. Watch the clock. Get some work done. Have an actual stop point where work ends and you transition back into your downtime. Change your clothing at that point. Also, maybe get all your work done in a certain room or in a certain area of your apartment or home so that you really, really, really feel as though there's a separation. Because again, depression can really creep in. We have another call. We have Paul from San Jose on the line. Paul, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Dr. Chris. Yeah, I was curious. I need to get a haircut. Is it safe to get a haircut?
That's a good question. I was thinking about that myself. What's going to happen when our daily beauty routine aspects start to not be accessible to us? No, please do not go get your haircut. Please do not try to find a way to go to the gym. Please do not go clothing shopping. Again, the social distancing piece is imperative. And it's really frustrating that some people are still offering some of these services and not taking this warning seriously. But again, not knowing whether or not we're infected, we want to be thoughtful about the other people we might be putting at risk. So unfortunately, this will not be forever, but you're going to have to learn how to make do with whatever's going on that head of yours.
So like shave my head or something like that.
You know what? This isn't a bad time to do things like that. We're going to have to encounter things like that. I mean, if you're down for the head shave, go for it. That's not a look that I'm prepared to rock. So I'm just working with whatever's happening up here.
Yeah, I don't know what to do, but all right. Well,
don't go get your haircut.
New, I guess.
Yeah, slick it back and learn how to roll with it. Yes.
No, I'll try something.
All right, different forms of self-care. We're going to get really creative these days. But yeah, thank you for the question.
Yeah, okay.
Have a great night. Yeah, listen, I'm watching people that are still trying to find ways to get into their gym, people that are still getting their hair cut. I was watching people that are still trying to keep their bars and restaurants open. And again, I understand the financial burden that's happening. I'm watching the government. They're attempting to do the best they can to help us out financially. But more now than ever, we have to really be thinking in terms of community care. And what that means is not being so focused on our individual needs, but really looking at the impact we're having on those around us. We're watching, sadly, the numbers rise and also individuals passing away because they're at high risk. And how that's happening is those of us that are infected are passing it along. So please, please, please stay home and find new creative ways to get your needs met. It's imperative. And we have one final tweet. This tweet says, I'm really worried about my mom, who is elderly and lives alone in another state. She is high risk, and I want to be with her, but I'm being advised not to for my own safety. How do I find a middle ground for her safety and mine? Yeah, this is a beautiful question. We're having to deal with certain boundaries and forms of distance. Listen to the advice you're getting. The experts are telling us that we have to maintain a separation. You can emotionally and psychologically stay close and connected, again, via telephone, FaceTime, Skype, but please do not try to travel and be with her. Try to support her from afar. Maybe there's a neighbor that's closer that can leave things at her door or help her in getting things delivered. Delivery services are still accessible to us. Make use of those. They can leave things at the door. I'm thankful for the service workers that are still providing those for us so our needs can get met. But no, please do not go against the advice of the experts. I want to thank everyone that joined us. Tomorrow night's show, we're going to be talking about ways to get our self-coping needs met when we no longer have access to the community and the resources, whether it's with our eating struggles, drugs and alcohol. And we're going to have Dr. Adee Jaffe, addiction specialist, joining us to talk about ways to still manage our mental health in these difficult times. So we'll be back tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And please tweet your questions at #I'mListening, because again, we're here for you. Thank you for joining us, and y'all have an awesome night.